Three, two, one. Hello, everybody. Hello, and welcome to our Mindful Leadership podcast with my wonderful co-host, Natasha Rocha. Hello, Natasha.
Hello, everybody.
You're
Hi.
making Scotland look bright, and
And
and hello to Chloe in England. Welcome, Chloe.
Hi everyone.
Wonderful to have you on our show. So it is my turn to introduce our guest this week, and I have it over here on my monitor. So thank you, Chloe, for sending in your bio. It says Chloe Rose is the founder of Heartful Yoga and Mystic Hearts Mentorship. It's her mission to to help fellow weirdos and black sheep to win at life and to create a safe space for people to become extraordinary humans and to step into their dream lives. Chloe is a professional yogi, holistic coach, mystic mentor, and embodied facilitator. She is passionate about empowering her clients to heal themselves, to remember their own unique magic and their strengths using a combination of professional techniques and practices. And under topics, which I'm really excited about, you've said you'd like to talk about the mindset shift from full-time employee to sole entrepreneur and the problems and obstacles that you're presented with and the importance of self-healing and embodiment. Welcome, Chloe.
Thank you. It feels interesting having someone else read my bio out for me. Thank you.
And I almost got it completely right. Well, welcome. Would you like to share a little bit more about yourself, something before I start talking too much?
Sure. Thank you. Thank you for the introduction. It's really wonderful to be here. I think it's an important topic as well, talking about starting up a business, but not in a way that is, necessarily on the timeline that we're in at the moment in that material world. Is actually how do we do it from a really heart-centered place. So it's great to be here with both of you. I was kind of forced or helped by the universe into starting my own business when the pandemic happened. It was like a huge shift in my life. I had already planned to leave my whole lifelong career of events management. I'd already planned to leave, and then that happened, and it was like, okay, you're going to move country now because you have to, and you have to reset and leave your whole life behind and start fresh. So for me, it was a very big change, and kind of a forced change of starting again. But it's been an amazing learning journey, and starting up my own business has also really accelerated my own healing journey, and they've been kind of working hand in hand. And I'm on like the 5th year of owning and running my own business, so I still feel very much like a baby in it. I feel like I'm only just starting to get the hang of it, but it's an amazing journey. So I feel really grateful to be here and to have a conversation about it, and about the craziness that it is, but also about the wonderful freedom that it brings and that it creates.
Oh, that's so beautiful. And I completely resonate with that. I think we get to that stage where we're forced almost out of our comfort zone into that space. For me, it was, I think I hit a burnout and I was like, oh my goodness, I need to start that healing cycle. And then after doing that, I was like, okay, somebody had actually said to me, you need to offer these services to the world. And I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. But somehow it was so interesting because it didn't even matter how many interviews I went for. It was almost like I was forced to continue to do that until I started and birthed my own business. So absolutely. I love that Jon, was it the same for you, or you got to that stage where you almost feel like forced to take that leap as well?
Yeah, I was just reflecting on that as you were saying, sharing journeys, and I felt um almost that I'd found a better way, like a that I'd found some better ways, and some of those first experiences for me after 2017 was meditation. So I'd go from my day would
Mhm.
start with meditation. It's like 10 minutes of an oasis of calm and beauty, and then I'd throw myself into my corporate job and do about 12 hours at Amazon as a senior manager, and then repeat that cycle. And there was something meditation was showing me there's another Jon, there's another way, and it's not pushing all the time. It's lightly somewhere in between. And yeah, it did start to, I definitely resonate with that feeling of like feeling a bit forced. It felt a little bit involuntary because my heart was like, Jon, like we've got to do this. Whatever it is that you're gonna do, start thinking about it, start exploring. So yeah, definitely resonate with that. And Chloe, you mentioned a different country. Where were you previously?
I lived in Indonesia for almost 5 years. Yeah, I've always been quite an adventurous soul. I've been very blessed I'm an only child to a single parent. So my mum, we were always traveling together, and she was very kind to always take me onto wonderful holidays, but she also implanted a very adventurous spirit into me.
Oh, wow.
So I've always loved visiting other countries and seeking other cultures. And the reason why I decided to leave the UK was I was just going through like a very difficult time in my life and feeling very confused and stuck in a cycle of toxicity and working in jobs that I hated. And I just found it like I just couldn't get out of that cycle. So
Mhm.
I just decided very adventurously and very privileged to just go and move to another country. I had planned to travel, and then I ended up getting offered an incredible job there where I was offered being the resort manager. So I literally redesigned the whole restaurant, the menu, managed all of the staff, had this incredible opportunity there, which was amazing. And I got to live on the beach and just have
Yay.
an incredible time and learn about a completely different culture. And I think that was a huge part of deepening my spiritual awakening, was actually
Mm.
understanding that happiness comes from within, and seeing people who seemingly have nothing materialistic, but they have this love and this joy and this compassion and care pouring out of them, and living in a place that was very community oriented was
Mm.
really beautiful. So it was an incredible experience. Yeah. And it's, yeah, something that I want to create in my life, wherever that may be, is bring a part of that community and that love and that joy and that simplicity in life.
Wonderful.
Well, I
How
can
did, how did
feel
you
that
how did you
warmth.
choose how did you choose what you would do when you came back to the UK?
So I had been practicing yoga for many years, even when I was living in London as well. So I was really in that London like city
In
lifestyle.
the jungle.
Yeah, in the concrete jungle of, working 9 to 5 and working at weekends and then drinking at every possible moment in between. And I discovered yoga at that time, and it just blew me away because I was like, wow, I can actually find peace in the chaos. So that's when I started my yoga journey. So it had already been a long time, maybe 9 years that I'd been practicing, and then something hit me when I was in Indonesia towards the final year of being there, when I said, okay, I've got this incredible job. I live in the most paradise place, but I still don't feel happy. I actually feel depressed. I feel unfulfilled. And it was just this realization of recognizing that I loved running a team and I really enjoyed teaching people and being in that environment, but I didn't enjoy running a restaurant and being in that environment of, just the tourism industry and that just kind of constant feeding and feeding and feeding and working really hard and burning myself out constantly. And something just clicked and thought, well, I love yoga. Why don't I just try and be a yoga teacher and see what happens? So I did have the plan to get my certificate and then travel around and work in different places. But I got my certificate and then came back to the UK and was just start fresh.
That's awesome. I can absolutely feel the warmth of the people when you're talking about the community that you were in. And I love that you're wanting to anchor that into and recreate that where you're at. And that's absolutely beautiful. So how did you need to change your mindset? Because it is quite different in changing countries once again, especially as you start to, gain roots in a new country and you start to I suppose, assimilate into that environment, and then to be, even when you're brought back, sometimes there's like there are big changes as well, when we're back and adjusting, because even coming back is not the same as when we left either. So how did you change your mindset to adapt to that?
I'm still adjusting now.
Okay.
No, that's a great question, because I previously had lived in London. And
Hmm.
I came back to London where my mom was living to stay with her at the time, and it was the most overwhelming experience. And I kind of realized, like, how does anyone live here? Especially people who are in the holistic industry, you know, when they're a lot more
Mm.
open to people's energies and receiving that. I thought, oh my goodness, no wonder so many people have panic attacks or feel anxious in these cities when it's just so intense. So one thing I did was decided that I don't want to live in London. So
Okay.
yeah, realizing that I didn't want to live in a city and that I needed to be around nature. Um,
Hmm.
and the importance of that. So I live in Oxford now, Oxfordshire. So it's not far from London. I'm still close there, so close to friends and people, moving into nature, being around nature. That was really important for me. Choosing surroundings, you know. But yeah, coming back from there, it funnily enough, it made me appreciate what I had been missing. And
Hmm.
it made me appreciate the dualities of the two very, very different cultures, you know, because it's very easy to say, oh, there's so many things that I don't like about England, and run away and chase it from another culture. But then when you live there for a long time, you see the other side of it too. So there was a lot
Yeah.
that I began to miss about England and really appreciate being English.
Mm.
And I do believe that it has set me off on this path of really discovering my ancestry. And
Mm.
that's been a part of the healing journey that I've been on the past 5 years, is going back deeper and actually discovering the magic and the richness of English history, English, Irish, Scottish, Welsh, and looking back into that and rediscovering a kind of a love and a rooting into the magic of this country. So that's a mindset that has helped me, rather than being like, oh no, coming back to England. It's been like, how can I make this more magical and have actually gratitude and some appreciation for the land
Mm.
that I'm on, and how it was before the time that we're in now. So that's really helped me. I hope that
Fabulous.
answered your question.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
I really resonate with that. I really resonate with our history and culture, because it's easy to forget, right? It's easy to
Yeah.
just modernize ourselves and almost like create this, especially with the dominance of other big countries in the West on the UK. It's easy
Mm.
for us to forget ourselves and our ancestry, and yet there's there's just such an abundance. Um, so I was gonna ask. You've moved country. You're following your heart, which I absolutely love. Um, and then you'd said in the topics you'd said you wanted to talk about like the obstacles of like moving from full-time employee. And I'd
Mhm.
love like those first obstacles that you had, including the mindset of like shifting from a salary to, assuming
Mm.
that's what you were how you were paid, from a salary to now working for yourself for the first time.
Yes, I was paid a salary in Indonesia. It was like a normal job. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's for me personally, it's such an interesting shift, because it's the first time in my life really that I've ever been on a fully self-employed venture working for myself. I've sort of dipped my toes in and out before, but it's still been led by other people in the past. This has been the first time that it's been like, okay, create this for myself. And the first realization that came was that I have been so ready and willing to put my all into working for someone else. Almost like, I will be the best, you know, I will make my feet bleed and I will have no sleep and I will work so hard for you. And then when it comes to setting up my own business, it's like the flip of that dedication is completely different. And I think
Mm,
we can either do that where we get completely obsessed with it and burn ourselves all over again, or more with me, where it's like recognizing the lack of working for myself and having to really work through that, and always, thinking, oh, I could
mm,
work really hard for someone else. But then it's like, oh, but now I have to do that for myself. And it's such a mirror of, how I have a sense of self-worth, um,
mm,
how, working hard for myself and seeing myself as a boss. That was like such a huge thing, and it's still something that I'm working with. Um, but then also finding that balance, and this has been a huge thing for me, because we can suddenly get this avalanche, those wonderful times when loads of new work comes in,
mm.
and we're like, yes, 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 yes. Fill out the calendar. And then a month later, I'm like, oh, I haven't had a day off.
Yeah.
And it's finding that balance and setting those boundaries. Again, that's another huge part of learning that self-worth and putting ourselves in that sort of boss archetype of being like, yes, I am the boss. I'm working for myself. I'm worthy and deserving of hard work, but I'm equally worthy and deserving of days off, more than one day off, and that's something that is really hard, I think, and especially, with long days.
Mm,
It's like, oh, I'm working and I'm not going to get home until 10 p.m. And then, oh, I've got a client first thing in the morning, and not recognizing that in the beginning, and the real problems that can bring in the long run. So I think that's been a real journey of actually having to take responsibility for that and myself as well. And it's not taught,
yeah.
right?
No, and
Yeah,
I
for sure.
totally, I completely resonate with that, because I had a marketing background, and I
Mhm.
was like, how can I market everybody else? But when it comes to me, it's like, I don't know what to say. Like, how does that, like, how? And I got rounded in a way of saying, okay, my company, I'm working for my company. And I was like, and I'm working for the boss that is my company. So I got, in the beginning, I got rounded in that way. But now I'm like, no, own it. Like, actually step into it and own it is important to actually, like you say, you're the boss lady, be the boss,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Which is important. Yeah.
Mm.
What do
Yeah, I was
you,
going. Go
yeah.
ahead, Natasha.
Go, go. No, 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 no. Go, 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 go.
I was going to reflect on that. I still, so I'm almost coming up in 12 months having started my own business and work for myself for the first time, and resonate totally with those roller coasters you've been describing, Chloe. And I've never thought of it like you just explained, right? Like, because I was always so fiercely autonomous, and yet I would be so loyal and tenacious about whatever it is I chose to, the people that I chose to work with in a company. And I was sometimes lightly difficult to work with, especially if you're managing me, because I was always like, let's figure out the best thing for the customer. And I wasn't really a manager pleaser, or what do you call it?
Mm.
Like a man, I wouldn't
Mm,
manage up, I wouldn't manage my managers. I just annoyed them a lot until we made lots of money and had lots of, happy customers. Um, but there was like these really simple things, these what would you call them? They're like the hidden truths of salaried jobs.
Mm.
And by a salary job, I define that as just like a regular salary, like the times I had a regular monthly paycheck. And some of them are that when you're not generating income for the company you work for, it can feel really bad because you know it inside, and you know that the people around you, like your manager and others, know that too, and
Mm.
it makes you feel vulnerable and nervous. And yet, when you're working for yourself, you're like, I think I need a break. It's like, oh, good, and this is a great time to like figure out, am I even doing the right things?
Mm.
Um, and then also this assumption that next month, the perpetual next month, will always be like as often exactly the same pay, but that it's always going to be like that. And it's like this almost false sense of security. Like it goes like that for a while and then it stops, right? Or, the company has big significant problems and they're like, oh, maybe this won't be forever. I don't know in your salary job, but when you work for yourself, it feels now more like there's definitely going to be peaks and troughs, and I'm totally cool with that. And I'll make the most of both. Like I have to like take the opportunity in both to, when it's really high, when you're at high demand. I've just had 4 months of that. In fact, I took my Zoom filter off so that I could like you could see some more of the bags under my eyes. And it's like that was really tough, like right up at the top of my capacity, as Natasha well knows. And then just like now that it's calming, I'm like, okay, now I need to just take those opportunities to can just gently reflect and receive.
Mm.
But breaking through that pattern of turning up in an office, my office here, or in my music studio where I do client sessions as well, like instead of just repeating those same patterns, starting to become more fluid with the work. And that fluidity still um, is a challenge for me. And I was I was excited to learn about your experiences with that fluidity and flexibility, Chloe, and what
Mm.
advice you'd have to people that are, you know, perhaps just made that first leap, how to shed those old skins and step into the new them.
Oh, I loved what you just shared, John. Thank you for that. I think you've just like turned a light bulb on in my brain, like a light bulb moment. Because when you are, so rightly said, when you are working for someone else and you have a salary, no matter how much or how little you do, unless you're on like a commission or a bonus job, let's just ignore that. You're always earning the same. And I'm just like, wow. But when you are an entrepreneur working for yourself, yes, you can have incredibly low months, but also you can have unlimited months, right?
Yeah,
We can have extremes, and that's really magical and that's exciting. Whereas in a salary job, there's yes, there's promotions and things that we can sort of chase and chase and chase. I always thought, oh, if I keep working harder, maybe they'll give me a pay rise, things like that. It's that keep chasing, but actually we hold that power in our hands. And it's funny what you were just speaking about, John, like the quiet months and the busy periods. I've just had like the quietest month of the whole year so far for me, and I've just been like, I've just had no money coming in for a few weeks. It's Easter holidays. A lot of people are away. I'm going through some personal issues. I absolutely know that I've been given this time to just breathe and take a breath.
yeah,
Um, but it's interesting because in the beginning, when these times happen, previously I would have started freaking out and been like, okay, maybe I need to get a part-time job, or I need to actually go back and make sure the money's coming in, and it's sort of grabbing onto those control systems that give us that sense of security that the salary has. And I do also believe that in the beginning, it sometimes is good to have a part-time job to support you until you feel that abundance in yourself. But now I know when these times come that it's just an opportunity to breathe. And also in this time, I've updated my entire website. I've created free meditation programs. I've just done so much back work, like admin work, that goes on the absolute bottom of the pile whenever I'm busy working with my clients. So I've been gifted this like 3 weeks of space to do all of that and not feel stressed about it either. I've been sleeping well, I've been going out for walks every day, working on my embodiment practices. So that is a huge mindset shift. It's getting comfortable with the peaks and the troughs. And that has taken some healing work as well, to really sit with the discomfort of feeling like, ooh, I don't have that much money at the moment, but I have an abundance of time and space. And what am I going to do with that? Trusting and knowing that and it's as long as we're still in that space of pouring into ourselves, and we're still looking after ourselves and just having faith and knowing that the work is going to come back. Because it's when we're working for ourselves, I think it would be very unhealthy if we had those crazy times constantly. I don't think any of us want that. I think that defeats the whole
No.
point of working for ourselves, right? It's the joy of having the peace and then gathering up that energy to be like, yeah, I'm ready to go again. Now I can do this for another 3 months and give my all and hold so many more people and hold so much more abundance in my life.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely imperative. I don't think we look at financial wealth when we first start off because absolutely it pays the bills and the mortgage. But I think it gets to that stage where, and you've completely explained it in another sense, that I started looking at that time as time wealth. Because we don't, like, and I'm like you, it's like, oh, a pocket showed up. Oh, it allows us to actually reset that. But it's also the aspect of building that time wealth in, which I found was quite strange for me moving from the corporate side into doing my business, was that scheduling that time for myself for the reset, because that's the first thing, that self-care aspect, because that's the first thing when we get busy that tends to, like you say, go onto the back burner there. Because and it's so interesting because I tell my clients, I said, book your time for your self-care into your calendars, and treat it as if you were doing a client or a customer, because you won't move them. You will move yourself, but you won't move them. And it's that beautiful space where we start to create that time aspect of the wealth in there as well. And like you, I'm like, oh, pocket shown. Okay, what are we creating? Because it allows us to step into that creative mode. And that brings me, I was going to ask you a question. How do you find, so I found very much when we went from the corporate era to kind of like checking off big to-do lists. Like I was a list person. I'm like, how many of these things can I check off, right? To now shifting into that space when we start working for ourselves, especially within the energetic field and the karma, we start to bring in those concepts from I suppose a very much a 3D world into this 5D world. And I kept finding myself the same way. It's like, how am I doing busy work instead of productive work? Or how do I find myself spinning my wheels because it's a habit of I need to be busy all the time. And it kind of like, for me, I had to step into observation of like, here I am again. Why have I overscheduled myself? Also because I'm, I suppose, a little bit deluded and I think I can do everything at once. It's okay. I can fit it all in. I can stretch time. It's fine. But how do you, like, what mindset, like, how do you manage that, Chloe?
Oh, I can relate to that so much as well. I'll be like, I have to have this list, and if I don't tick everything off in this day, then I'm a failure. It was very much that mindset in the beginning, and letting go of that. I think goal setting is a great thing to do because we are still humans, and it's great to know where we're going, but then being open to it changing and evolving and expanding, and this constant coming back to like, why am I putting so much pressure on completing this? Does this need to happen? Is it coming to a place of lack? And for me, it's been like kind of just at the start of every week, sitting down and just going through like, where am I at now? What feels good to share? What's on my heart? And being a lot more in the moment and present with my body wisdom rather than what my mind is trying to get me to do because of like worth patterns. It's difficult though. It's an ongoing work, but I found that I would use like business action steps, whereas I've tried to now change that into my daily practices, making that my structure, and then whatever wants to flow through my business comes through that. And the days when I don't make space for my practices or I fall off, that's when I feel like my mind's all over the place and wanting to do a million things at once. Yeah, so that's been a simple step that's been supportive, is rather than the to-do lists, be like, okay, now I'm going to get up and do my meditation. I'm not going to turn my phone on until whatever o'clock. I'm going to focus in on myself, see how I feel today, ask my body how it's feeling. Do I have something on my heart that wants to be shared, or do I feel a little bit more introverted today and want to just do some writing? Yeah, so that's helped me more.
Oh, that's amazing. And
Beautiful. Thank you.
I know Natasha and I have been going. It's funny because we were talking yesterday. We were scheduling like upcoming podcast recordings for the Mindful Leadership podcast, and we were also talking about uh, other get-togethers, and we're both seem to be going through like a transformation in our
Mm,
calendars and the way that we're working. And I was sat this morning having done most of my self-care like happens right at the beginning of the day,
Yeah.
and I'm learning to continue to expand that. And so after done my meditation, I recorded a song, and I'm sat there editing my video for my song, and I sat there, and it's beautiful. I love that. It's like a really calm. I've done it like literally 2,500 times. So it's very like um kind of brain off. My subconscious is rattling away on my phone. I'm staring out the window as I'm doing it. I'm thinking, this self-care,
Mhm.
it's not like, it's almost like in a salary job in 9 to 5, we're taught to wait, like put it off. You've got a weekend,
mm,
Mhm.
you can care for yourself then. But I was realizing that's not how I work anymore.
Mm-mm.
I'm not going to put
yeah.
any of it off. Like, and I'm not just going to survive the day, right? I'm not just going to just
Yeah.
get through it. Just drink a little bit more coffee, tell that person that things
Yeah.
can wait. Like,
Mm.
it's not like that. It is a daily practice, and it's
Yeah.
every moment counts. Um, and it's been a real battle for me recently as I've been so busy, and I was very grateful for having a quantum healing session, which is I'm so sorry, Chloe, I've forgotten your title for it.
Soul
Um,
expression.
Soul expansion, exactly. What a perfect title. Where you helped me with some past life healing
Mhm.
that you'd identified within me that was something that I needed to go back to. There was a repeating pattern that was still affecting me today. And when we went there, it was huge. It was this, and there's a public video on YouTube, so you can watch it. Um, but I cry a lot. I think we're both crying at points. There's this huge release for me. Um, and it was fascinating because it had an effect on my diet most predominantly. I've not had a single snack since, and that was like my
Wow.
my kryptonite. But then the next thing surfaced became more obvious to me, which was my work. And I did Saturday all day training, Swedish massage Sunday, developing a new training course Monday, a 14-hour day, and I was like, what am I doing? Like, as you're saying, for like you're now your own boss. You're and I realized, so yesterday I just had 3 sessions, and then today I don't have any client sessions. In fact, Natasha, I only see you today. That's all I'm doing today. It's like,
That's awesome.
this is great. It's just a Natasha day. And then tomorrow I've just got like one client session and live stream. It's like,
Mm.
okay, this is it, Jon. Like, this is, but not so like, that's too much of an extreme for me. To
Yeah.
be too much, and seeking that balance. And I'm fascinated with your journey, Chloe. You've been at it for longer than I have. What have been the ways in which you've explored these different patterns? Because presumably in that time you've tried quite a few different ways, and how do you settle on what feels right for you in the moment?
What a question. Just to backtrack a little bit,
Mm,
and talk about the healing,
yeah.
and you coming to me for a healing, which is amazing, but that's been a huge part of the business for me, is
Mm,
because I feel like every time I've come to a real fork in the road or come up against a wall or an obstacle, I can pretty confidently say it's been because there's been some healing that has been needed to be addressed.
Yeah.
mm,
Something that I've been running away from, or something that I've not been wanting to face. And it's almost like everything comes to a freeze point because your higher self is saying, yeah, I don't want you to work. I want you to actually heal this part of you. So I've been working with some incredible people over the past 5 years, working with plant medicines, going to shamanic work, learning just a lot about sitting with myself and actually making space to listen to the voices in the head right? Being like, yes, I'm a human. There are multiple conversations happening in my mind at the moment. What are they saying and where are they rooted from? And really actually taking the time to start pulling up the weeds of the roots of these patterns and these conversations. And more so now it becomes more important to me, because when I start recognizing these negative thoughts are coming in, I say, okay, hold on a minute. Where is this coming from? Have I picked up energy from somewhere else? Do I need to do a healing? All of these things. So it's becoming more and more and more and more self-aware, so that we can more quickly recognize when something's there that is holding us back, or perhaps isn't us at all, and it's just a voice or a patterning that we've picked up. I've kind of gone off a tangent a bit. I
No,
can't
it's
remember
fantastic.
what you.
I think it's
No.
so, and I think it's so powerful, right? I don't know about you, Natasha, but that's
Mhm.
what, like when I booked Claire, it's like
Mm,
it doesn't matter what my mind has come up with about all these great ideas and business and everything and all these things I'm going to do. If
mm,
I don't take time out to
Mhm.
heal something that is like creating these patterns in the first place, I'm just going to keep spinning my wheels, and I'll probably hit a burnout at some point.
Yeah.
Um, have you experienced any of that, Natasha?
No, absolutely. And I keep experiencing that because we're constantly going through those layers. And I absolutely, I mean, Jon, you said something about surviving. And then Chloe, you talked about kind of like looking at those mindsets and where those healing was. So one of the big ones that I'm using to mind shift right now and is moving from that surviving to thriving. And I think when we, especially when we move from a very corporate, that is survival, you're getting that constant paycheck, to running your own business or jumping off that cliff, is really that we hit survival mode because all those safety nets have disappeared.
Yeah.
And I still realized that spinning of the wheels, it was kind of like that is survival mode. And again, we talk about this a lot on this podcast as well. It's kind of like, oh, I worked X amount of hours, I must be doing great, where it's not really. But my latest is, I mean, I also do a lot of ancestral work, working in
Yeah.
the Akashic Records, looking at those patterns. And I'm like, where did this pattern come from?
Mm.
What's not allowing me from moving from that line of being a worker to being on the other side, to really being that mindful leader and really being that, stepping into that space of entrepreneurial. And sometimes these things are so subconscious,
Yeah.
and they could be from our lineage or could be from a past life, but until we address that, we will keep hitting those glass ceilings because we've created them. So I absolutely, it's a work in constant. And plus, I'm the first entrepreneur, I suppose, starting my own business for both of my lineages. So it's like there's all of that that comes in the background underneath that. So no, absolutely, I think the healing part is a huge uh, thing that we need to work through. What is the block? Why can't I overcome this? Even with, I see it in some of my clients, like, why can't I attract the right people to work for me either?
Yeah.
Right? Which is that they're like, I need people and I can't find the right people. And it's like, where are you in that space where you're not attracting the right people?
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I've got loads to say on that, if that's okay.
Yeah,
Go for
absolutely.
it.
Yeah, and there was two things I picked up on, and one is the focus around money, and then one is around the patterns. Like, it's so
Mhm.
important, because I feel like when we are in a salary job, we have this mindset, and I'm speaking from my own experience, but I think I can speak collectively as well. We are aiming to reach a goal, of
Mhm.
like CEO, for example, and that is it. That is the goal, like you've won at life. But the interesting flip is that when you are an entrepreneur, when you're a sole entrepreneur and you are really doing this mindfully, it's really hard to accept that the healing journey is infinite. It's
Yeah,
it's an infinite
which
spiral.
it is.
It's a
Mhm.
spiral. So there's
Yeah.
no CEO, there's no enlightened, healed master.
Wait, there's not.
No.
Sorry, Jon. There's some more past lives to go to.
I'm booking you in again. That's it.
And I think that's a really like scary concept to come to terms with and accept, that it's that wheel's going to keep on turning, and we might come back to a pattern that we feel great about, but it's almost inviting us to go a bit deeper and a bit deeper and a bit deeper, and it's a never-ending journey. And I think that, myself included, in the past, that has been something that's blocked me, because I've just been like, I just can't be bothered. I can't be bothered to keep going and keep healing and keep going deeper. You know, it's a lot to take on, but the more we do it and the more we start reaping the benefits of it, not necessarily financially, more emotionally and relationally with the people around us, and just experientially how we experience life. I mean, it's beautiful, and it does become easier. But I think in the beginning, it's just like, wow, I have to keep doing this for the rest of my life, facing my shadows.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think once you've done quite a bit of it, it does become quite curious, in the sense of, oh my goodness, I've been doing this and I didn't even know. And then then we get even more curious and you go, where did this come from? You know, kind of a thing, which is beautiful in that sense, because, and I have a friend of mine who's like, okay, now that you've got the knowledge, what are you going to do with it? So now, because I know that it's intergenerational a lot of the time, it's a lot of conditioning. So now with my daughters, when I find my patterns, I'm like, mom's just discovered this, you know? And I'm like, and luckily my mom also lives with me. So I'm like, do you remember when your mom used to do this? You know, and I'm like, so how are we going to change this? How are we going to shift this? You know, how does this work? And even for business, it's kind of like, like when, for now, like when I know, it's like, I know I'm going to the next level, I can feel it, but I'm like, what is the limitation that's sitting in the background there? And I think it's important, like you say, it's go to somebody else, because sometimes it's hard to do it all on our own, because it's personal to us, right? So I love that you offer these services as well, because it's important to support each other as well, which is brilliant.
I love that you do that with your daughters.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in investing in ourselves is just such a huge part of this, of the growth. And yeah, I think before, I really was just, I don't have money, so why do I want to pay like £200 to go to someone for a healing? And now I'm like, yes, I need it. Like and that in itself is a shift. And coming back to what I was going to say before about money is, and this is an ongoing thing for me. I know that I've still got some money patterns that I need to address, past life things. But when we are working in salary jobs, the sole focus is on money, right? It's pretty much 100% profits, right, when you're working in a business. But what I have found in my business is that when I focus on money, it deters money. But when I focus on joy, self-love, creativity, and just letting loose, I attract money. And isn't that such a strange and interesting mindset shift?
I think that's fabulous. I really resonate with one of my clients was saying on their Instagram stories today. They were saying, we don't get paid by the hour. That's what people think happens in the world, but it's more like energy, right? It is, because the money is just an abstract of that energy. And no one would actually say to you in a contract for a salary job, say, come here, work 35 hours a week, and just be really tired all the time, just kind of do nothing, but be at work. You've got to be at work, you've got to be in the office, and I'm going to ask you what you're doing, you got to tell me. And and it's a really bizarre way of culture that we seem to have evolved, at least in the West. And a big lesson for me recently has been the work I do, like energy healing, clearing, help people's past lives, like all this very intense it's in the title, energy work, psychic work, it is a totally different ballgame. Like I cannot turn up for like 12 hours. I couldn't do 12 hours of sessions in a day. I don't think I could survive one day of that. And the reality is now I'm shifting much more with the relationship with money to making sure when I look at the pricing of my services that I'm almost like giving myself a rate for that energy, and I'm saying, okay, this is what I need to focus on. This is the right balance, for me to have a happy, a happy life, a happy balanced experience. And yeah, I really wanted to talk about money because I really feel it's so important. And sometimes I see podcasts, I'm just like, I wish to talk about cash, when they're most importantly their relationship with it.
Mm.
And one big habit I came out of was I used to look when I first started, I used to look at my monthly income, like every day. So I'm looking at it every day, but I was obsessed by a month, by what's a month. And it's like, but how much did I earn today? I didn't earn much money today. Quick, market more, John. Hi, it's John. Buy my stuff. And spin my wheels doing that. And now, after trying a few different things, it's really funny. About once every 2 or 3 weeks, I just look at my company bank account. And it's just like, I don't really care about what went in and what went out. I mean, I do obsess about constantly saving, but it's like I just look at that and just go, yeah, that's what happened. And it's a really fascinating way of experiencing the journey with money. And I'd love to learn from you, Chloe, like what do you do to keep an eye on your cash?
Mm-hmm. Cash. Yeah, so I used to be really obsessed with it when I first started my business, having every little thing itemed out in details of like what's going out and what's coming in and getting very obsessive with it. But now I know the number that I need to come in. And then I focus on, okay, what is abundant? Financial abundance to me is just being able to go into the store and buy what I want and not have to check my bank account. And I focus on that flow being there. That's kind of where I'm at the moment, and letting the grips loose a little bit. And if this is going to sound cheesy, but if I need money to pay for something, I will pray for it. And usually the money comes in a very unexpected way. Yeah, so it's for me, that has been the hardest thing, going from the very masculine salary style of money. I know that my lesson in this lifetime is to go into the feminine flow of actually receiving and believing in magic, because money is just an energy, right? It
Hmm.
is, it's a
Hmm.
physical thing
Absolutely.
that pays the bills, but actually it's an energy and a frequency. And I think it's still difficult and it's still an ongoing thing for me. But the more that I release the grips of control,
Mm.
the more that it actually flows to me with ease. Yeah, and that's
Oh.
tough. It's tough for me because it
I,
requires
I
a high level of not being scared and of trusting.
I love that you've said that, because that hits on so many levels. Even if you look at the feminine, masculine energies, masculine is very much a giving, and and the feminine is obviously receiving and then building it. Right.
Yeah.
And I love that you've put it in those terms, in that space of learning to receive it and nurture it. One of the things I've always said is, if money were a person, what is your relationship with money? Right? Like, it's like, yeah, exactly, exactly. So it's actually seeing it in from that perspective, because a lot of the times it's like we try and hold on and control and stifle it, right? When we don't have it. But it's also, like you say, it's that learning to allow it to come with ease, and like breathing, it's like in and out, kind of one of those things, and that absolute trust that it will be there, which is incredible. So thank you for putting that perspective in, Chloe, in that sense of, yeah, no, I'll be receiving it. And I think a lot of the times when we shift, it's that, especially if you're into something spiritual, there's very much and this is a limitation that I worked through when I first jumped ship, was that to receive money for spiritual work,
Mhm. Yeah.
because of those belief systems around that. And I started off with Reiki, and I'll never forget this. This was awful. I, I was just starting off, and somebody said, "You need to do this," and I'm going, "Oh, people are going to think I'm nuts, and I'm going to lose my friends, and all sorts of stuff." So anyway, I was super excited. And in Canada, because I lived in Canada for a while, they still use checks. Like, I hadn't used checks for years in the UK, and then all of a sudden I was back to paying the rent with checks, which was bizarre. And I was like, "What is this?" Anyway, so I received a check, and I remember going to a bank teller to put it into my bank account. And she saw the check, and she saw that it was, I think the person had put in a description that it was for Reiki. Again, I was monitoring that. And she goes, "Oh, you charge what? I do this for free." And I was like, how is that for a mirror of like my insecurities for charging that I needed to work through? And I was like, hey, it absolutely, it was so good for me because it switched me. I'm like, how dare you judge me? You don't know how much I've changed my life or changed everything. And I was like, huh, yeah, I'm going to start charging, kind of a thing. And it made me more comfortable in that space. But that it's amazing how that fear, that judgment showed up right in that space. So yeah, that wanting to, so that relationship with like, I want to help people, but I can't receive the abundance for it. And it's like, and then I started to realize, wait a minute, we've done so much studying, how different is this from anything else that we do? But yeah, no, absolutely, that mindset, that energy, that learning to receive, I think that's a big thing as well, where a lot of us, it's easier to give than it is to receive. So it's learning to receive, which is important.
Thank you for sharing that, because I have another example of very recently, actually, because with John's pushing me like, "Chloe, you should put your prices up." I'm like, "I know." And I have like one-to-one yoga clients who I visit their houses, and I've just put up my prices. And I spoke to one recently, and I said, "Oh, did you see my email? Just to let you know, you've got a month's notice." And the prices go up, and she was like, "What? You're putting them up by £5 an hour? £5 an hour? That's like nothing, right?" And it was the attitude of it. I just was like, ugh, at the time it triggered me. And then I left and I was just breathed. But on my drive home, that trigger really empowered me to think, I travel to these people's homes. So not only am I giving an hour, I'm giving more than an hour. I'm bringing my in-person energy, which I then have to clean and cleanse my energy afterwards and put more of a protection around myself. So it was like that. Those moments of discomfort, I think when someone challenges us or makes us question ourselves, can be super empowering. If as long as we don't let ourselves go down that rabbit hole of like, ah, and that's a part of the healing journey, isn't it? It's like, oh, recognizing that and being like, no, actually, I'm really good at what I do. I've had loads of experience now. I bring this, so whatever your reaction was, it was just an invitation for me to recognize my worth.
Absolutely.
That's been a real journey as well. When people complain or make a face about a cost or a price, it's just like, it's fine, move on. It's just an invitation to, really recognize our worth and what the space that we hold and the energy that we give.
That's
Absolutely.
fabulous. Well, as we come up on time, and I'd love to get you back, Chloe, because I'm sure we'll feels like we'll chat forever.
So quickly.
But yeah, I know I'd like to thank you for coming on and sharing your journeys and your vulnerabilities. Like you're already an expert at that. And just wish you all the best with your continued growth and your get that rest before that next roller coaster of work comes in. But how do people connect with you and your fantastic work?
So the only social media platforms I use are Instagram and YouTube, and that is mystic_hearts, and the E and the A are a 3 and a 4 because someone already stole my name, so I put some numbers in there. At the moment, my website is heartfulhealing.uk, which will soon be mystichearts.uk, but yes, still in the changeover. So Heartful Healing, and that's got my psychic services and also the yoga on there.
Fabulous. Well, thank you. And the reason I say all this now is because I'm about to do a mindfulness meditation, and I'm sure I will be sleepy and a bit lost afterwards. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
So yeah, we can spend a few minutes now if you'd like to join me in meditation. And to do so, we'll begin by taking in a deep breath through the nose and breathe out any fear, shame, anxiety, or pain at this time, nice and loud. And breathe in through the nose, nice and deep. And breathe out any low vibration energy or emotion that no longer serves you, nice and loud. And breathe in through the nose, nice and deep. And breathe out any remaining stress or anxiety, nice and loud. And continue to breathe deeply and calmly as it feels right for you. And as we bring our attention now to our body and allow our bodies to just relax, focusing now on our hearts and allowing ourselves to look deep into our hearts, like you're traveling into a room within your house, within your home, wherever that is. Imagining now that you're opening the door to your heart and stepping into that space, that magical, beautiful space within you. I'd like you to see within the room all the different aspects of you within your heart. Perhaps you'll join me in creating a space where these different parts of you can stand or sit. These could be representations of yourself, little copies of you stood or sat down around this room. And in no particular order, as you scan around this room within your heart, see within you a representation of the child of you, not just from your childhood, but your inner child that continues on into adulthood. See the aspect of you that grew up through education, following the different programs, trainings and qualifications and experiences that you learned through into your teenage years and beyond. Seeing the adults of you now across whatever age you are, and seeing an aspect of you also that is your relationship with money, part of you that's a relationship with your self-love, self-care, part of you that you feel you project out to the rest of this world, also represented here. And then any other aspect of you that you wish to share, to represent in your heart. You may also have time and space for a shadow version of you, a version of you that is the one that's struggling the most, that has the hardest traumas to deal with, that you can continue to process and to heal through. And encouraging you to be able to repeat this practice as long and as many times as you like. I'd like you to invite forwards just one of those aspects of you, from the child to the shadow and everything in between. Choose one of them to step forwards to you. And still within this room of your heart, if you choose, you can place your hand on your heart. And as you allow this mirror of you to step forwards, ask this mirror representation of you, what can I do to show you that I love you more each day? And allow your heart to answer gently. And ask this representation of you, what areas do I need to heal the most to bring the most joy into my life? What blockages do I need to face, or old patterns do I need to release? And finally, how can I allow myself to become the highest aspects of me, the most joyful, loving aspects of me in every single present moment? And now that you've taken time to face this part of you, please thank this aspect, this representation of you. And as you invite that representation of you to step back to where they were when you first came into this room within your heart, perhaps take a moment now to walk around every representation that has materialized of you and just go around and give them a big, loving hug, one at a time, and tell them that you love them, that you love you. And then when you're done, send that whole room within your heart love, a self love only you can give yourself, and that you have the gift to be able to give it at any time, in any moment. Remember this room and remember these feelings, the answers to the questions, and I encourage you to come back here whenever you wish. It's always here within your heart. And when you're ready, you can bring your consciousness, your awareness back out of the room of your heart and leave the door open or close it however it feels right for you. As you make your way in your conscious mind back to your mind, body, and heart, and your soul again. Coming back to where you're sat or laying down, back to your breath, with the remembrance of these beautiful healings and answers and lessons. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes, perhaps stretch a little bit, or if I've sent you to sleep, wake up.
Thank you for that, Jon. I love your meditations.
Oh, my pleasure.
That was lovely.
It's my honor. Thank you so much. I hope you had some good answers. I certainly did. But yeah, thank you so much, Chloe, and thank you, Natasha. And I look forward to um, being here again on the Mindful Leadership Podcast. Thank you to Natasha for all your posts you've been putting out to invite new guests on, and we do have some as a result. So if you're
Yay!
interested, if someone's made it all the way to the end and I didn't send them to sleep and woken up again, then yeah, if you're interested in coming on our podcast, please do get in touch. There's always a link in the description, no matter where you're finding us on Spotify, Apple, Amazon, YouTube. The list
YouTube.
is
Yeah.
very long. But yeah, please do connect with us. And we love meeting new people, just like Chloe. Thank you so much, Chloe.
Thank
So
you so
lovely
much
to meet you,
for having me.
Chloe.
Yeah, you too. Thank
Pleasure.
you. Such a
Okay,
lovely conversation. Thank you for making me feel comfortable.
Oh, my pleasure.
absolutely.
Fantastic. Take care, everyone. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.